we're going to get started, officially adjourn the final meeting of these officers of the June 12 Penn Branch Civic Association, and also the swearing in for the new officers for Penn Branch. So I'll open it again. My name is Jimmy Williams, and I want to welcome you all here. I do a few people asking where the agenda is, and I can tell you in the hurry to make sure that everything was done. The agenda is on my phone, but it never managed to get printed out this time. So a lot of things that we're trying to do. So welcome everybody, and I hope everybody is ready to start. So we'll start with the opening, and we have a lot to do. And like I said, it's a happy part for me. Like I said, our time to move on and do something else, but also welcome in a new officer. She voted them in. We voted in a great slate of officers, and we're very happy to welcome them in. We want to acknowledge Councilman Vincent Gray, who will do the swearing in of our new officers, and we appreciate him for coming. He's also our guest speaker. I don't know if we put all that on there, but we know you're a politician, so you will speak. So that's a good thing. So welcome everyone. So first of all, I really want to start off by acknowledging everyone who has really chipped in over the years. And it's been 4 long years, that I've been president of Penn Branch. I really appreciate everything that everyone has done. First of all, I could not start by not thanking the current and past slates. We want to thank Roy Ward, who's really been my right-hand man through all of this, thick and thin and changes, so I really appreciate Roy for everything he's done. You'll constantly see Roy around as a DC fireman. Actually, he's been promoted, so it's not just the DC fireman in the EMS, but Roy and his family.
What's your new rank, Roy?
Sorry.
Sergeant?
Yeah, Roy is sergeant.
Fire chief, right?
Soon to be fire chief, we hope. But in the meantime, we also said, with sergeant, we can also triple his dues because that comes with a paycheck. And then we want to thank, I'm going to go with Laverne. Laverne is looking at me because every time I get to Laverne Thomas, I slip. But I want to thank Laverne Thomas. She's our newest addition as parliamentarian. She jumped in, rolled up her sleeves, came in here, and all the time she was in the audience, we've been looking for her as parliamentarian all the time. So Laverne, I definitely want to thank you for all you've done in rolling up your sleeve. Jacqueline Cannon, I want to thank you. Jacqueline Cannon coming in as correspondent secretary. She's my neighbor across the street. So her escaping serving as an officer was pretty difficult to do with me glaring at her every day saying, hey, what else can you do? And then Tawana Banks, who served as treasurer, recording secretary, and will be treasurer again. Tawana is real special because Tawana has done everything from, she's been the person that jump-started a lot of our community events. She's been the brain behind it, the one to roll up the sleeves. It's only fitting that Tawana will be officer again, serving with us. So again, I want you, and it's not just Tawana that I want to thank, but it's all of our committee chairs that are sitting out in the audience. Alberta Paul, Laura, I can't see that far. But I want to thank all of our committee chairs who are out here, who've done all the work, who've really rolled up their sleeves for what they've done. To give everybody a hand for what they've done. And I think it's only fitting that really when you look up at this table, when we start, only 2 people are going to be missing. That's going to be Roy, myself, and wait, I forgot to thank one person, Matt Bernardi, our treasurer, just stepped out. But we also have to thank him when he gets back. But Matt, myself, and Roy will be rolling off. Everybody, the women you see here, will be stepping into leadership. Jacqueline Cannon will be stepping in as vice president. Laverne Thomas will still be parliamentarian and has really brushed up her skills even more. Tawana Banks will be treasurer. That's really in her line of work, but she's really driving and working on the community block party already. And we do have some flyers out there anyway. Flyers. And then some sitting quietly in the back that we'll talk about is introducing our new president. And I'm really proud of the person that's going to be our president because she is a millennial. She's 3rd generation Penn Branch. She's been here a long time. So she knows this neighborhood like the back of her hand, and most of the stories you tell, she was either a little girl growing up, now she's a mother raising her own son. So Shannon Thomas, who's right there in the back, we want to welcome you. president. We have Jacqueline Cannon as vice president. We have Laverne Thomas as parliamentarian. We have Tawana Banks as treasurer. And then we have Solomon, we have Elson Nash, who's sitting here. Elson Nash is going to be correspondent secretary. And Cal Murphy, who I can barely see, but he's about 7 feet tall. So Cal Murphy is one of our newest neighbors, and I really like it when our newest neighbors jump in and roll their sleeves up. But Cal Murphy is going to be secretary. Carl, go ahead and stand up so they can see you. I know you're going to be sworn in, but I want to make sure they know you. So these are going to be our new community leaders, and we went through a process, a vetting process. I went through a begging process to make sure that we had, but I wanted to make sure that the work we've done, that we really passed it on to someone who's going to continue it, but not just continue it, but also lift up the level and just take it even a step higher. This community that we're living in right now is so rapidly changing, and we're confronting more than just being a community where we serve dinners. We've got some real issues percolating here, and some of our neighbors have clashed over these things, but at the end of the day, we're not moving out. We're going to be right here, most of us, and so we want to learn to work together. And it's all about how we can take this community and move it forward. So that's what we want to do. We want to, the one lesson I say that I learned is you really want to remember these are your neighbors. You can disagree if you want to, but it's almost like a marriage. When you go to bed at night, you don't want those, you don't want those issues still hanging around. You want to make sure that you walk down the street and you can speak to your neighbor. You walk down the street and you can go to your neighbor's house. So there's a simple way that we can work things out, and that's really what the goal is here. How do we work this out? I'll be blunt. We look at Penn Hill, that development. Our community has been somewhat divided over it, but we know we need some kind of growth. We need some kind of development, but we don't want to steamroll it when we do this growth. We know we want to be able to have grocery stores and shops and places to go to. We don't want to drive to Capitol Hill to do it. We don't want to go to the 2 safe ways that are in Ward 7 just to do it. We want to be able to do something in our community. That's what this is about. And if you ask me what I spent my time here, no, I might not have been the dinner dance type person, but I wanted to grow the number of people in this room, and I wanted us to become politically aware. And I didn't want to look at another listing that see Hillcrest on it. We might be the Hillcrest track, but we're Penn Branch, and we're a real neighborhood. And that's what this is about. Some of our people here have worked very hard for years. I look at Alberta, I look at Mrs. Coleman in the back. We've got new neighbors and we've got old neighbors, and this is about how we integrate. So I'm not going to say a lot more about this because one thing I said about this time, it's not about me. I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave. Roy's not leaving. Nobody's leaving. And you've got a majority of the people sitting at this table. So my goal was to make sure we had residual knowledge that didn't die. When I stepped down, when Roy left, we wanted to make sure that these were people who have been in the community, understand the community, or were already committed to the community. So, and a lot of these people that you see that are coming in here, they've been working a long time. They didn't just raise up their hands and say, I want to serve. They have already been working. And the goal was try to get some people who were already doing this, so this is a natural fit for them. This is not new and try it while you're riding. This is something that you've already been doing for a long time. So with that, we said, I'm going to speed this meeting up. We have one last presentation that's going to be brief from Department of Parks and Recreation. And the reason that we're doing that is because the work takes place over the summer. And if we tried to wait till fall, it would be too late. So Nick, I know you're out there. We need to go ahead and do this, but if I ask you, you can kind of turbo speed.
Yep, I will turbo speed. Yes, I know we have a packed agenda. I'm Nick Kushner. I work with the DC Department of Parks and Recreation. So I'm a community planner in our Capital Projects and Planning Division. I have some flyers. I'm going to start them here, and I'm going to pass them on both sides. So I'm here to talk to you about how many people remember the stream restoration work that happened at Pope Branch a few years back? So when we did that stream restoration as the government, we failed to put in any kind of walking trail that was safe and accessible and actually allowed people to go and enjoy the stream and enjoy the restoration. So we've ended up with an opportunity this summer through the Student Conservation Association, who does trail enhancement and trail improvement projects in a lot of national parks all over the country, and they have partnered with us to agree to do some trail enhancements along the Pope Branch Trail. We're talking about the area primarily from Branch Avenue and M Street all the way through the park to Texas Avenue and Nash. So that is the portion. We're looking at creating some entrances and potentially some crossings across the stream so that folks can enter the park from one side and then exit on the southern side, because we've heard that there is a lot of concern around walking all the way around the park to get to the southern side or vice versa. So we do have a walkthrough scheduled with the Student Conservation Association to kind of look at the topography, look at what the existing access roads that were created through that construction project look like and how safe they are. The only issue with this is that the Student Conservation Association has a team of people that is on board to start in July. And this isn't going to drastically change anything in the park. It's going to enhance the access roads that are already there. But what we want to do is open it up for any community members who are available, who would want to join that walk. We're happy to have you come with us. It's on June 19th. It's in the afternoon. It's at 1 p.m. And that's on the flyer that's going around. But on top of that, we want to make ourselves open and available and accessible for any questions, comments. I'm happy to come out to other meetings in the community. We're working with Jimmy, and we'll work with Shannon now to schedule a follow-up meeting after that walk so we can discuss kind of the plans and the timeline and everything with the Student Conservation Association present. We're looking to do that the last week of June, so I'll make sure to send out details on that as soon as we finalize them. We're just waiting on a location and a specific date. So with that, I'll kind of wrap it up. My email and my phone number are both on that flyer that went around, so please reach out if you have any questions. And I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you so much. We really look forward to making this beautiful Pope Ranch Park more accessible to everybody who lives here to enjoy the nature and find some quiet serenity in the city. So thank you very much.
So Nick, thank you very much. Next we will have some announcements. Marla, I didn't mention you as education chair. I can tell you my vision goes about 10 feet. So anybody else here I missed? Go. So we're going to have some announcements real quick. So one of the things I mentioned is that the next biggest event, we did have a community yard sale this weekend. The next event we're going to have is the Penn Branch Community Block Party that's going to take place on August 12th. If it rains, it'll take place on August 18th. That you will get in the next newsletter coming up that the LaGraffs are working on, so you'll see that flowing through the neighborhoods. We're looking for sponsors. Last year's event was very successful. We learned a lot from that event, so this year we really started early in soliciting sponsors and getting people to participate. So there will be tents for the seniors, there will be games for the kids, there will be a lot of food for that. So we're going to make sure that this is a step better than last year. So with that, we're going to, are there any other announcements? Oh, July 14th, there will be a zoning meeting on the Penn Branch Shopping Center, Penn Hill Shopping Center. So we're just asking everybody, we'll circulate information about that shopping center. And again, you've got to come out. You can't sit there and go, oh my God, this happened during the last zoning hearing. You've got to come out and share your concerns.
I think it might be July 23rd.
It's July 23rd?
Can we make sure every block have his package?
So we will make sure, the newsletter that's coming up, I think it's scheduled to go out next week. That zoning hearing will be in the newsletter. It'll go out on the listserv. So you'll see that over and over again before that zoning hearing takes place. We'll make sure it'll be distributed in the newsletter that the block captains are passing out. But we're going to make sure that there's wide, and that block is, it'll be a physical newsletter, and there'll be one that's mailed out. So everybody will get that newsletter, so stay tuned. Are there any other announcements? So we're going to...
I just want to say that O Street has an agreement with, we have an agreement with Yard Lynch. So we have no more issues of disagreement.
Okay, well that's good. That's forward movement. So again, I think that agreement is good.
And we also think that they have changed what, that they're moving towards purchasing property that you can purchase at that site.
Okay, they're moving toward condos, is
Right.
what you're saying.
Well, I wasn't gonna say,
Well,
but, okay,
for
that's
property you
fine.
can purchase is usually
Yeah,
condo, that's what.
they're moving towards townhouses and certificates.
Right. So we'll see whatever
Would you
happens.
repeat her statement, please? So we-
She said they're moving toward properties that you can purchase, and I said condos, development. But the most important thing is that the Oak Street residents had some differences. Marla is saying that those differences have been resolved. So,
And that is all in our good neighbor agreement.
okay, so whatever the case is, we're not going to discuss that any
No,
further
just let
here.
it go.
We're going to keep right on rolling with the meeting. Those things will happen during the next president's term. I'm out. So, we'll do that. So right now, we're going to make this about what we're doing going forward. So this is going to be Shannon's day, and it's going to be the new officer's day. So with that being said, before we do the swearing in, again, I mentioned we wanted to recognize some people, so I'm going to have Roy come up. And we're going to recognize people, and this is going to move pretty quick, and then we'll get to the swearing in and our guest, Councilman Fitzgerald, after that.
So Jimmy and I felt it appropriate to recognize some of the people who helped us out, and like you said, we've been at it for 4 years. We've had outstanding help from many community members. Some members are in spots that we put there, block captains, committee chairs, and we are thankful for them. We recognize them day in and day out, so we're trying to do some of the people who were kind of behind the scenes and helped us out for quite some time. So we have an outstanding service recognition for Miss Eloise Prince. Mrs. Prince was one of the first people who pulled us aside 4 years ago and told us how things have been in this community for a long time and how she wanted to see things change, and we hope we lived up to your vision.
It would be nice if somebody could take a picture. Picture. Oh, wait, I forgot Sam's recording it. Well, we'll do it at the end.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just some let's go in the back and
So next person I'd like to recognize who has volunteered his time for us pretty much every meeting, Jose Alvarez.
It's bad when you have the person do the framing and, he did his own work.
All right, the next person has been a community volunteer for a long time, has done a ton of work for us. Comes to our executive board meetings, always positive, optimistic, and always willing to help with whatever project we have, and that's Tony Reeves.
Thank you. Pleasure to serve.
Another unsung hero that's always willing to volunteer, has always stepped up to the plate for us at every meeting and every event, is Carolyn Wright. All right, next person I'd like to recognize who has helped us out, volunteered his services many times, including tonight, Mr. Stan Benton. All right, this is a really special one for us because this person volunteers every single time. They've stepped up to the plate, they've held events themselves, they've volunteered to be part of our board when we needed people, and are going to move on to the next board. So, Ms. Tawana Banks. So there's several people that aren't here, so we'll give those to whoever can bring it to them.
Yeah, so we'll thank those later. So just real quickly, so it was Janata McEachran, Dan and Megan McGrath, Pat Hall, who does, if you ever got a gift bag, Patricia Hall is the one who did it, so we wanted to recognize her. Susan Perron, Joan McKenzie, who does a yard sale. Charlie Boyd, who faithfully puts off the signs every week. Every meeting, Charlie Boyd does that. Janet Payne Strickland, who did a lot of the food and cooking, and just loves cooking for us and started the whole cooking. And then cooking thing that we've done, and a lot of times donated it so that we wouldn't have to pay for it. So we want to applaud Janet for that. And finally, he recently had a stroke and is not able to make the meeting, but he is doing much better. But he's been the voice of our community, and that's Gilbert I. Bussey. So we want to thank him. So with that, we don't want to, I said I don't want to, this is going to be an atypical meeting. What we wanted to do is really have some food. We want you to get to know the neighbors. We want you to get to know the new officers. And this is not about us, not about me, not about the ones leaving. It really is about these people that you're going to see the next 2 years. And so I want to get started with that part of the program, which I think is the most important part. So what we will do is, I think, first of all, we want to thank Council Member Vincent C. Gray for coming to swear in the new officers. We also wanted him to say a few words to the audience before we did that. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Councilman Vincent Gray. You can do it either way you want. Yeah. Yeah, you swear in. So, Councilman Gray is going to swear in a new member. So, may I have Shannon Thomas to the front of the room? May I have Elson Nash to the front of the room? And Kyle Murphy to the front of the room. And the other three are already at the front. And if you want to take pictures, please do, so we can post them on the
All right, thank you all so much. Good evening, everybody. I want to start by, first of all, thanking the two people who indicated they're transitioning out. I guess not completely, but at least in officers' capacities. How about a big hand for Jimmy Wilson? These are hard jobs, as you all know, and I really commend them for the work that they've done to be able to continue to work to make Penn Branch a continuing solid community here in the District of Columbia, certainly on the east end of the District of Columbia. So, Jimmy and Roy, thank you all very much for the service that you provided. And I think you're handing off the leadership of an organization that really is in great shape. So thank you all very much for the service that you have provided. I appreciate it myself. I'm a Ward 7 resident, as you know, but not in Penn Branch. But I certainly appreciate good service when I see it. So I'm going to ask the incoming officers, if you would raise your right hand. I, and state your name.
I, Elson Nash,
And repeat after me, please. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the laws of the United States of America
the laws of the United States of America
and of the District of Columbia,
and the District of Columbia,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of, whatever the office may be,
the duties of the office of Vice President
of the District of Columbia,
of the District of Columbia,
of which I am about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
I should have said Penn Branch. I apologize for that. Congratulations, you all are now officially sworn in.
All right, thank you.
And should they just take over, Jimmy, or what's the next step?
Well, you know, they officially take over in September, but I'm gonna start in yeah, we don't want to throw them out there that quickly.
So you are still officially the, at least officially the president, right?
Until 8:58.
All right, I guess you guys can be seated wherever you wish, wherever you were, and wherever you would like to be. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I want to make a few comments, and then I would invite you all to ask any questions or provide any comments you wish as well. Let me start by, we had a brief conversation when I came in about a bill, which is a bill I think I introduced around the pension benefit exclusion, and it has not moved. And I was trying to help you to understand why these things don't move as quickly as they should. It's the pension benefit exclusion legislation, which was a part, for those of you who remember, we had a summit back in December of 2016, going into then 2017. And we've used that as the agenda for representing the people of Ward 7 since, in fact, in addition to the book that we produced, which some of you, I'm sure, probably still have a copy of somewhere, we sent out last fall, and we'll send out another update later this year, where we were with the various legislation that we promised that we would introduce, and what we've been able to accomplish. The legislation, pension benefit exclusion legislation, was referred to the Committee on Finance and Revenue under Councilmember Evans' leadership, and also there is a role, obviously, for the chairman of the council in every one of these things. So, for those who are concerned about the fact that it hasn't moved, I would invite you all to say something to Councilmember Evans and to Chairman Mendelson. I am certainly totally committed to trying to see that it moves myself. I'm going to talk to you a little bit in a second about some legislation that we had in the Finance and Revenue Committee and how we got that moved along. I'm more than happy to be able to work with folks who would like to continue to work on this to see that this happens. So, again, it's the pension benefit exclusion legislation. In addition to that, there are a number of things that I want to talk about, and again, would invite you to jump in at any point you wish. I think most people know that in addition, along with serving as the council member for Ward 7, I also chair the Committee on Health. And, I don't have any reservations about saying what I've said before, and that is, in my opinion, there is no real healthcare system on the East End of the District of Columbia. We've been working hard on this. Some of you will know that we spent a lot of our time and our attention on the building of a new hospital, which everybody I think deserves who lives in Ward 7 and Ward 8. We have 150,000 people who live in those two wards, 70-some thousand in each one of the wards. And the United Medical Center is the only hospital on the east end of the District of Columbia. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that and some of the challenges that have been associated with UMC in the recent past. When I was mayor, we had in the budget, we had $336 million included in that budget to be able to build a new hospital, and it was established to be built on the grounds of St. Elizabeth's. Some of you will recall that soon after I wasn't the mayor, that budget was totally dismantled, which was an unconscionable thing to do, a dastardly thing to do, to the people who were looking forward to being able to depend upon having a new hospital to be able to be available to folks. When I got back as a council member for Ward 7, I indicated that I wanted to be the chair of the health committee because I know the challenges that exist on the end, and wanted to be able to try to do something that could have been done or should have been done long before that. But the budget has been maintained, the capital budget has been maintained. This hospital, the new hospital, will be finished in 2019, which would obviously be next year. When I got back, not only was there no longer $336 million in the budget, what was left, I've said, could barely build a hospital out of Lego blocks. $90-some million left that had been picked apart. The money had gone in several different directions. For those interested in knowing what those directions are, I'd be happy to try to share that with you, but I won't make that as a part of this presentation tonight. One of the things that I did, in getting back, was to try to work with my colleagues to rebuild a capital budget that would be committed to the people in terms of health care on the east end of the District of Columbia. And after the capital budget was finished last year, we had made some progress. The progress was that we had gone from $90-some million in the budget to $300 million in the budget. We hadn't gotten completely back to where we were, but we had made very substantial progress in the course of trying to rebuild the budget. One of the things that I was happy about was my Ward 3 colleague, who's also on the committee, the health committee, indicated that she had money in her budget, the budgets that were under her purview, in either the transportation committee budget or the DGS budget. DGS, of course, is the entity that's responsible for constructing a lot of the buildings in the District of Columbia. And she said, you know what, I think I can try to help you with this. And I said, that's great. What do you think you can do, Mary? And she said, well, let me work on that, I think I can come up with $100 million to help. I said, $100 million? Where the heck are you going to get $100 million from? She said, well, there's some projects that we're working on in this committee that have not moved, and I'd like to see the money devoted to something that we think is more worthy. Not that these projects aren't worthy, but more worthy than the projects we have on the table. And so that's what happened. We moved money, she moved money to my committee, and we were able to get money from a variety of other places and got it back up to $300 million. One of the problems that is associated with that was that the money was actually in the out years. The out years meaning that it was not even going to start until 2021. And it would have been close to 2025 before we would have seen the light of day. So what I've spent a lot of time working on during this budget, which is not even completed totally yet, it won't be completed until the end of June, is trying to see if we can move that timetable forward. We have a baseball stadium that was built in the District of Columbia, right? Anybody know how long that took?
22 months.
It took 22 months to build a baseball stadium. And you can't tell me that if we can build a baseball stadium in 22 months, we can't find a way to help people rebuild their lives from a health perspective and do that more quickly. So I have spent a lot of this budget period working on how we move forward that effort. And we've been somewhat successful, not maximally successful, but I wanted to see it move forward so that we would have the activity on the budget started immediately. Now, Mayor Bowser actually moved it forward a year in the budget that came over. It started in 2019, but she also moved it back a year so that we would be into 2024, 2025, which is not acceptable to me. So I have worked, and some of you all have been helpful with that, to try to move forward this effort. And we've been able to move forward $51 million in the budget at this stage, so that my goal was to get the budget moved forward enough so that we could complete the hospital and get it started, get it completed by December 31st, 2021, which would be 3.5 years from now, right? That's an even much longer time than it took to build the baseball stadium. So we've gotten to move forward a year. We've gotten $51 million of it moved forward, and we're going to continue to work now, and I certainly could use the help of the people in this room and across the east end of the District of Columbia to try to move that forward. I don't know how many of you all use the United Medical Center, but it is not a widely regarded experience at this stage. There's lots of people who actually they go elsewhere in the District of Columbia to get the level of health care that everybody should be entitled to. So we're going to try to improve that. I don't know how many of you followed over the last 6 to 9 months the situation with the United Medical Center. Last year we had 3 deaths of patients who were there. Last August we had the suspension of the obstetrical services, which means that nobody living over on this end of the city would have available to them the maternity care that people should be able to reasonably expect. And in the course of that, later in December, this past December, the board of the hospital voted to permanently terminate maternity services, obstetrical services at the hospital. Which I don't know what permanent means. It doesn't mean anything to me, because at the end of the day, it means that we've got work to do to try to make sure those services are included in the new hospital. So where we are is we've gotten established in law the site for the new hospital to be on the grounds of St. Louis, which is on this side, of course, of the city. And we've gotten a date, quote unquote. I won't say what that date is, because it's still unacceptable to me. We also have changed. We had a contract that came before the council to try to renew the services that were being provided by Veritas, which was the hospital operator, until last November. There was a contract that came forward to renew their services. I opposed it because I felt that the services they were providing were inadequate. And it was quite a battle, for those of you who followed that. On November 7th, 2017, the council voted in a vote of 7 to 6. I'm still trying to figure out why those 6 people voted the way they did. In a 7 to 6 vote to terminate that contract, to not renew that contract. We then started working immediately to try to find a new operator to come in and manage the hospital, at least on an interim basis. And we have a new operator now that started in February, Mazars, which is an organization that has been around since 1921. They've been involved in healthcare. They originally were in New York. Now they're doing services here as well as other parts of the nation. Are they going to be the permanent operator? No, they're not. There'll be a new operator for the new hospital named hopefully within the next 2 to 3 months. I don't have control of that process, but obviously I have enormous input into what ultimately will be the decision made around who the operator will be. Again, the problems with Veritas were enormous. The patient deaths, the suspension of the obstetrics unit, the costs of operating the hospital were out of control, and was costing a lot of money for the people of the District of Columbia. And so we're working now to try to get the quality of services that I think everybody deserves in the District of Columbia to be able to be available in what hopefully will be a brand new hospital. There's a lot of people I want to thank for having worked hard to help us move up this timetable and to help us get the level of dollars that we have now available. Again, it's bothersome to me, more than bothersome, that we are where we are. We should be in a different place, but I can't change the calendar. I can't do anything about that. I wish I could. I would. People probably be a lot more rich than I would have, have a lot more wherewithal than what I have now. We've gotten the health councils in Ward 7 and Ward 8, several of the advisory neighborhood commissions and civic associations to step up and take on and embrace this effort. And I invite the new leadership. Jimmy, I thank you for the work that you've done to help us with that, especially in your new capacity with the Ward 7 Democrats. But I invite the people in this room to take up the mantra of this. This is a powerful statement, ladies and gentlemen, of what we care about. And if we can't care about the health of people, then what do we care about? And it should be right there at the top of the list. Hopefully we can get this timetable moved forward in a way that will accelerate the construction, and it will happen, frankly, if you all get involved with making it happen. A few other things I want to mention around healthcare, and that's so much for the new hospital. In fact, I'd love to have some input from you all on what you think that the name of it ought to be. And by the way, I took a trip to LA a few weeks ago because they have a hospital there that serves a demographic that is very much like the one that we have. The King Hospital, the Martin Luther King Hospital, which used to be called, people call it Killer King, because when people went there, they were served so poorly that it was just lowly regarded, to say the least. In any event, they made the decision to build a new hospital. It cost them about $300 million to build a new hospital. And what a wonderful place this is. They have a CEO. It was very interesting to talk to her. She lives in California, obviously. She's a graduate of Harvard. She got her master's in public health degree from UCLA, and then she got her medical degree from Case Western Reserve, which is people know is one of the finest medical schools in the country. When I had a conversation when I went there, and she said, I just want to tell you something. I said, what's that? She said, I was raised in Rockville, Maryland. I said, Rockville, Maryland? So that's right outside of D.C. I said, want a job? We would love to have you consider coming back, to this area and help us. They have done an absolutely phenomenal job, and I think it gives a lot of hope for us here in this area that the same thing can happen. If it can happen with the King Hospital, it can happen here. What's interesting is they have a campus there also. They have a campus with the hospital. They have a psychiatric behavioral health facility. They have a medical school, the Drew Medical School, and they have a magnet high school that provides services, to get children a diploma to be able to move on, hopefully, into healthcare services. I don't think we'll have the same opportunity here in the city, but it shows you what can be done when people resolve to try to make a difference, and that's exactly what we want to do here. A few other things on the health front. I had a bill, and I'm going to talk about this because I was talking to the folks who started talking about the pension benefit legislation that has been moved. A smoking cessation bill. I don't know if any of you all follow that. I introduced that bill actually late 2017. And we had a hearing on the bill on February 1st. We had lots of people who came. What the bill proposes to do is to raise the cigarette tax by $2 a pack, which is no small sum. The purpose being, of course, to try to get people an inducement to not want to smoke anymore. And we know that raising taxes will help to help make that happen. At the hearing, we had a number of people who came. We had retailers, wholesalers who came to talk about the bill. And there probably were 30 or 40 witnesses, which is a lot of witnesses for a bill before the council. And before the Finance and Revenue Committee. And so I asked each one of the retailers and the wholesalers the same question. I said, do you smoke? And the answer was universally, no. And my question was, well, why don't you smoke? And the answer was, I don't smoke because it's not good for you, it's harmful to you. I said, well then why do you sell this to people? Why do you sell things that are going to hurt people? And there was no answer, of course. You know, it's like, you know, revenue answers and stuff like that. Anyway, we had the hearing, it was a positive hearing. And then when we got to the budget, I moved this piece of legislation in the Finance and Revenue Committee, and it got voted down. It was voted down by a vote of 3-2. I said, you know what, I'm not going to stop this because I realized that when I look at the data in the city, the data indicate that, for example, people who live in wards 2 and 3, about 10% of the people who live there smoke. On the east end, wards 7 and 8, 27% of the people who live on the east end of the District of Columbia smoke. And there's no question, I hope I don't have to make an argument about how deleterious smoking is for people. It's not just lung cancer, but the emphysema, the asthma, the other respiratory conditions that people experience as a result of that. So I said, you know what, also well and good, I'm going to bring this back up. When we get the budget to the committee of the whole, I'm going to bring this back up. And we did. I brought it back up at the committee of the whole. And by the time we got there were 2 people who voted against it, and the committee was flipped. They come in another direction. And the vote in favor of the bill was 10-2. We were able to move it. And now, effective October 1st, cigarettes will go up another $2 a pack in the District of Columbia. Is that a lot of money? Yes. But the real issue is, does it help people stop smoking? And we have a lot of data, that shows, in fact, it does make a difference. And by the way, what I was able to do with the money, because interestingly enough, the bill is in the first year is going to raise about $5.2 million. So what do we do with the money? For those of you who smoke, I hope I'm not making you feel uncomfortable. But if I am, I'm not going to apologize, okay? Because what I'm trying to do is help you get to a different place if in fact you smoke. What we did with the money is there was a bill that was passed by the council 2 or 3 years ago to ban young people under age 21 from smoking. And so now we got enough money to fund that bill, to be able to do the enforcement and the implementation of that bill. And I have another bill as well. I don't know how many of you follow the Versa 3 bill that we have before the council right now. That's actually my bill. For those of you who know, I happen to be a huge proponent of early childhood education. I was the one that did the legislation as the council chair to implement universal pre-kindergarten in the city. We have every one of our 3- and 4-year-olds now who goes to school in the District of Columbia. And I've had people argue with me, at least not recently anyway, but to argue over time that that's too early for children to go to school. Is it really too early for children to be able to have an education? I don't think so. In fact, when I was doing that bill, somebody, y'all remember the Washington Examiner paper? Somebody said, why don't you go to the editorial board of the Washington Examiner? I said, well, what am I going to them for? They're not going to influence anybody. So anyway, I did it. I went and made a presentation to the Examiner editorial board. And when they came out with the editorial, it was unbelievably ridiculous. The editorial basically said that really is a bad idea because children ought to be home with their parents at that age. And my question to myself is, how stupid can you be? I mean, that's utterly, absolutely ridiculous. So we now have we have the most robust early childhood education program in America. We have every one of our 3- and 4-year-olds that goes to school all day, every day. And we're working now on a Versa 3 bill. It's going to be very expensive at the end of the day. But so, just to quote Jesse Jackson, he said, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. It's even more expensive. And I think he is absolutely right. So in any event, we've had the hearings on that bill. It has now gone before the council for its first reading. It was passed on its first reading. And on June 26th, what is that, about 2-3 weeks from now? It will have its second reading, and I would invite you all to weigh in on council members. You don't have to weigh in on me because they know where I am. But I would invite you to weigh in on other council members to let them know how important this bill is. It will allow us to expand our home visiting program so that there are healthcare practitioners, education practitioners who will go directly in the homes of families to work with these kids. It will allow us to build upon the Healthy Steps program, which is another health program. It will put money into the University of the District of Columbia to help support degree programs for early childhood educators. And it also will help us to create an inventory of community resources for being able to make sure that our families and our children have this opportunity available to them. If we can get this through over time, we'll build the additional money that's needed to be able to do this. This is a great start if we can get it through. And we will undoubtedly then be looked at in America as having the finest early childhood education programs available to our very youngest children and to our families. And I can almost assure you that at the end of the day, it will make a huge difference in educational outcomes and learning outcomes for our very youngest children. And of course, you know, with the continuing rolling effect, as our children get older, you will see them improve their own outcomes as well as that of their families. An additional couple bills I'll mention. We have a bill that I did also wanted to do is the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact Act. Now what is that? That's a mouthful, isn't it? The Interstate Medical Licensure Compact Act basically says that this is a way of expanding the array, the complement of medical practitioners that we have in the District of Columbia. How does it do that? The compact basically allows people who live in other places to be able to apply and obtain licensure to practice in a compact member's state. There are 22 states that are involved in the compact at this stage, and it would allow us then to be able to make available the opportunity for those folks to become licensed practitioners in the District of Columbia. We have a real shortage, especially on the east end of the district. We have a real shortage of physicians, a huge shortage, as a matter of fact. It's one of the problems that we have in UMC, and that is there are physicians who really don't want to practice there. That's why we need to improve our facilities and improve the equipment that we have available to people and improve the opportunities that are available to them to be able to get the experiences they need in areas that the cities that desperately need it. Another bill is the Telehealth Medicaid Expansion Act. What that does basically is, how many of you all are familiar with telehealth? Telehealth basically allows people who are remote, physicians. Some of the demonstrations I've seen, physicians I have seen in other countries, not even in the District of Columbia, not even in a state in the U.S., but in other countries, to be able to telehealth, to be able to practice with a patient who may need some specialty intervention or some other kind of intervention. And so what we've done is, and this bill has been passed by the council already, as has telehealth, as has the medical compact bill. It has allowed us to be able to reach out now to make telehealth services available to people in the District of Columbia. Physicians who may not be practicing here, they may be practicing elsewhere, they can now provide their services to people in the District of Columbia as a result of this. And for those who are Medicaid beneficiaries, Medicaid recipients, it will allow now Medicaid to be able to reimburse those folks for the cost of providing those services. And there's some specific criteria, which I won't go into, as to how they can be reimbursed and the kinds of services that they would provide. So what we're really trying to do is to build a real healthcare capacity in the District of Columbia. How old is our friend right here? Shannon, how old? One. Well, he would be a great candidate for our Birth to Three program, and ultimately for our pre-kindergarten program. So, and I'm sure you're going to take full advantage of all those opportunities. In any event, we're trying to build a real capacity in the city, especially on the East End. Because you look at the deaths, man, you look at the health disparities that exist in the city, it really is unconscionable that we've endured this, we continue to endure it, and frankly, we have a real chance, I think, to make a difference in those services as a result of what we have before us. We also had in the budget, we got some additional money in there for the Healthcare Alliance Program, which would allow us now to expand the renewal of certification for the Alliance Program from 6 months to a year. And they can do it in clinics, which would be a lot more comfortable. For those of you who follow the Trump administration, I pity you, but if you follow the Trump administration, you know it's an all-out assault on people who are, undocumented, people who are immigrants, and there are lots of people now who are afraid to go into some of our government buildings to be able to be certified because of the threat of being deported. And we shouldn't put up with that, and that's what this bill helps to do, and that is to get people recertified, not every 6 months, but now a year, and to be able to get recertified in places where they can feel comfortable. I would assume that everybody knows that we have an opioid addiction epidemic in this country and in this city. My last year as mayor, we had 83 opioid addiction deaths. It has gone steadily up at this stage to the point where we now have more opioid deaths than we do homicides. And that is homicide control, as you know. We had, over the last year, we had not just the 83, we had 246 deaths due to opioid addiction in the city. So I've got 2 pieces of legislation that we hope to get passed as a part of this budget to be able to improve outcomes for people. And also, we're working with the Department of Behavioral Health. There's a grant program, a $196 million grant program for the entire nation to work with them to submit an application that will bring additional resources to the District of Columbia to have a real strategy around opioid addiction to try to begin to stem some of what we, are seeing with the opioid addiction. I'm not going to go into all the details for that, but it would allow us to provide, physician training. It would allow physicians not to have to get prior authorizations anymore to be able to provide these services. And it would require hospitals to develop discharge protocols so that they don't have to go through the process of sending people back to the streets where they may become further drug addicted. Some additional issues around the budget. We've gotten some additional equipment, money for additional equipment for some of our recreation centers here in Ward 7. We got some tax bills. I don't know how many of y'all have followed the tax bills to try to address the problems that we have. Everybody knows that we are a food desert. I mean, we have, there's one ward in the District of Columbia now that has 9 full-service grocery stores. It's working on its 10th at this stage. Over here, we have 3, and that's between 7 and 8 combined. We have 2 Safeways in Ward 7, and some of you presumably followed my engagement with that. The Safeway in Good Hope Marketplace and the one in East River Park was absolutely horrible. And I said to them early in my tenure last year that we got to change this. They gave me a plan which was not effectively implemented, so I just gathered up the media and went out to East River Park and Good Hope Marketplace one day and said, you know what, we're here, and what did I discover? They had, can you imagine that a store is selling ground meat and was marked down by 50%? I said, how could you mark it? How could you sell it? I said, you couldn't even give this to me. How can you mark it down by 50%? That's an insult to try to sell that to people. There were strawberries in there, was produce with mold on it. And so the media can be helpful at times. They were very helpful in this situation. The gentleman who's the president of the region for Safeway was dismissed after that. And we have a new person now who's working in this region on behalf of Safeway. But don't we think that we deserve to have the same stores over here as anybody else has? And so that is one of our principal priorities also, and that is to try to get additional resources on this end. I've got 3 tax bills, one of which has been passed. That for those who follow this stuff, if you do follow it, you need to like it. But one of those bills basically says that the tax exemption program that allows full-service grocery stores to be exempted for 10 years and now been increased to 30 years. Also, I have a second bill that's been approved, it's got to be funded, and that is a bill that would reduce the commercial taxes, which is like $1.65 per $100 of assessed value, would reduce it down to the residential rate, which is cutting the taxes in half. And then there's a third bill that has not moved yet, and we're going to be working to try to get that moved. It's now it's in the committee of the whole, in Chairman Mendelson's committee, and that is to say the government would build the buildings in which these stores would be located, and we would rent it to a certified, bona fide operator for $1 a year. And if they have to stay for 15 years. If they don't stay for 15 years, then they have to pay back a pro rata share of what it cost to build the building in the first place. And presumably, what we're trying to do is obvious, and that is to make it a greater inducement for people who are bona fide operators of grocery stores and restaurants to have a better tax situation in locating in our communities. So I would ask you to stay with that. I just came back from the International Shopping Center Convention about 3 weeks ago. And I spent a lot of time working with or talking with potential operators there. You never make a deal there. I've been going through this now for several years. You never finalize a deal there. But you build relationships that then can translate into getting additional operators to come. I'm sure everybody here remembers the Walmart fiasco, right? I think it was a matter of weeks after I left office, and I got a call one night that said, "Hey, Walmart's in town, and they want to talk to you." I said, "Oh, great, I'd love to talk to them." I get on the phone, and I said, "We're glad that you all are coming. We're glad to have you here." I said, "I think I got some bad news for you." I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, "We're not coming. We're not going to do the other 2 stores." I said, "Do you realize how devastating that is? Do you realize how disappointed people are going to be as a result of that decision?" And of course, as you know, they walked out the door. They were supposed to build in Skyland, and they were supposed to build a Capitol Gateway, and they've done neither. And there is no operator, even despite our concentrated efforts, there's no operator, no store that has stepped up and said they're willing to do this. For those of you who are interested in, our efforts around that, I can give you the sites for the legislation and would invite you to read it. We also, in addition to that, before I got back, I realized that there was also a practice in the District of Columbia that said that some folks would be charged. In fact, where I became aware of was River Terrace. River Terrace was being charged about $300+ a month to be able to have their Civic Association meeting in the school. And the Civic Association worked very closely with us to get that building modernized, and then they were being charged. In fact, they would raise the money, and it looked clearly that in about 3 or 4 months they would be completely out of money, and they weren't going to be able to pay for it. So I introduced a bill called the Public Use of Public Buildings legislation that was passed and now is effective, and that means that organizations like Penn Branch, civic organizations will no longer have to pay for being able to use them. It's a doggone shame that we have to go through something like that in order to be able to make the point that people who come out, like the folks who are here tonight, who come out to give their services to the District of Columbia, then have to go through the process of being subjected to having to pay for the opportunity to serve themselves and the people of the District of Columbia. So, with that having been said, people probably wondering why I'm walking around with this thing around my neck. There was a huge rally today to celebrate, after 44 years, the Washington Capitals having won the Stanley Cup, and what a great celebration that was. I will say this is a pure guess on my part, but I looked at the crowd, and I'm absolutely convinced that crowd was a lot larger than Trump had. Even though he was playing different. So, in any event, we're also working on another issue, and I'll stop after this. And that is the Fletcher Johnson School, which is not in Penn Branch, but it's in Ward 7. There's a lot of people who want to see something different done with that site, like raise the building and have a different vision for what happens here. And so we're having an event on the 23rd this month to talk about how we craft a different kind of vision. There are some people who are involved with the Education Council who don't necessarily want to see another charter school there, but they are interested in seeing other things like an urgent care center, which we're working on. And by the way, we have 2 organizations that are experienced in providing urgent care. Anybody ever been to the urgent care center in Ward 7 or Ward 8? If you have, you must be a magician because there is no urgent care center. Which again is unconscionable also. When you have urgent care centers in a host of other places around the city, but none over here. And it's what drives people a lot to the emergency room because of what could be handled more readily in an urgent care center. So in any event, there's a half a dozen things that have been put on the table that we hope to crystallize with the folks on the 23rd. There's a lot of people who want to, they want to see an urgent care center, they want to see a different kind of vision for Fletcher Johnson, and we're going to work to try to crystallize that with folks. We got DMPED that's coming, we got the Office of the Attorney General is coming to be a part of that discussion, as well as others, especially people from the education community who definitely want to see not DME continue to do that, but they want to see DMPED take on that responsibility. So, Jimmy, I saw the signal, and I got it, okay? So I'll stop at that. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you may have as we move forward. Here and here. Yes.
I see on your sheet that there has been an upgrade to the Recreation Center at Deanwood and Fort Davis. Would you please get someone to take a visit to the Therapeutic Center?
Yes.
At 3030 G Street?
Very familiar with it.
Okay, be familiar and try to do something to upgrade that. Because I go, pardon me?
Go ahead.
I mean, that's where I go to, that's probably, besides Tacoma, the only pool in the city where there's warm water. And so, I mean, for those of us who have limb problems, it would be well that we could go in and have a facility that we could go in and you know, have some modernization done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm very familiar with the Therapeutic Recreation Center, as you indicate, at 3030G. And it is now in the budget. It's in the budget for $37 million to be completely modernized. It's going to take a while to get it done, but at least there's hope in sight. The Therapeutic Recreation Center is used, it initially was built for people with disabilities, but it's used by a lot of seniors and others at this stage. And so there is hope in sight. It is going to get done. And hopefully that process will be started within the next year or soon thereafter. But again, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. For that. You're welcome. Yes.
Okay, so I have two things. One was regarding the Senior Wellness Center on Alabama Avenue.
Yes.
A couple of the instructors in there said that they don't get paid or they don't get paid on time. That they don't get paid or get paid on time, some of the instructors there.
Yeah, because that's a contractor that's running it, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know why that is. I'll be happy to look into it and see. I hadn't heard that people were not being paid properly there. I was over there to make a presentation about 3 or 4 weeks ago to the East River Family Strengthening Collaborative, and the air conditioning wasn't even working in place. That's another problem.
My other thing is deer. Oh my gosh, there's so many deer around here. The other day, I looked out my window, there were 6 lounging in the yard as if they pay rent there.
Probably they do.
I know, and I understand that they were here first, but my main concern is ticks and Lyme disease. and we try to do what we can to keep them away. I believe some of the neighbors are feeding them, which is a no-no. We have deer, I saw this for the first time, a baby deer, just running out there playing. And sometimes they're coming down the street and, you know, like a pack, and I'm scared.
Is it possible to have whoever tranquilize the deers and take them and put them in the wildlife? Because I think there's a overabundance of them, and also foxes also.
That's true.
Yeah, so there's I know up in upper northwest, that's what they do, is that they come in and they tranquilize them, and then they take them. Right.
You know, and this is not Bambi we're talking about either. I mean, that's a bit almost. I think these are Bambi. These the deer that we see are destructive. They, you know, eat up your yard, eat up the flowers and all kinds of things. And there is an overabundance at this stage. I'm gonna meet with the agency that would have a role in this. I know that the animal used to be animal rescue something, alliance or something like that. Now, they would be the people who would have a lead responsibility on this, and I'm going to meet with them to try to see what can be done. Because I've heard this before. This is at least the third time I've heard it in the last few weeks about an abundance, an overabundance of deer. We got possums, we got raccoons, also. All of which can be destructive, and raccoons get into people's attics and do all kinds of damage. So we will follow up and see what can be done about that, especially maybe tranquilizing them and moving them somewhere else. There are some states where there's an overabundance also, where they actually authorize people to kill them. I don't know if I'm not down with that one at this stage, but it may come to that at some point if we can't control the population of deer in this area.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just for, I might have missed this, for the property for those Walmarts. Did you say what the plan is for those, to build on those areas?
The two sites where they were supposed to go? Well, one of them, of course, was Skyland, which is now being, this construction has already taken place at Skyland, but there's no anchor as yet. But what's being moved forward with is the construction of the housing that's to go. There's 270 units of housing being built there at this stage. There will be others that will sign on, but the only one that's really signed on for the construction of a new retail operation is CVS. Of course, there's a CVS right here in, right here in Penn Branch, already up on Pennsylvania Avenue. There's a temporary CVS in Skyland. I had conversations when I was at the ICSC with two developers, Gary Rappaport, who manages, I think he manages Penn Branch these days, and Chris Smith, who is a great guy. He's the other developer. And I know there's some other opportunities that are being worked on at this stage to bring additional retailers there, but they haven't signed on the dotted line yet. There is a vision, for example, of trying to get a full-service restaurant into Skyland. But I don't want to misrepresent and say that deal has been struck, because it is not. But the thing that I mentioned, the construction, the housing is taking place. And it's always a good sign when you see construction taking place that there'll be some reality associated with moving forward, with the project and bringing, additional retailers. There's also a possibility of some additional healthcare services being brought into Skyline as well. So that'll be a good thing for the people who live on the east end of the city as well. And we'll see whether those happen. So I don't want to misrepresent the facts in answering your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to go running out the door, so I don't know how long before the meeting will end, but I'll be around if you all have additional questions.
By the way, thank you very much, and a lot of what Councilmember Gray said. We want to make sure that we continue to update you. A lot of these things are major wins for Ward 7, major wins for Penn Branch. and all that happened during the budget season. So we wanted to make sure we make you aware. We're going to continue to drive, and we're going to continue to make sure you get support. And there's one more thing.
We have some tickets that we want to give away. Somebody asked me about baseball tickets earlier. We don't have baseball tickets tonight, but we do have tickets that we like to give away, to folks who live in the ward. And Civic came up with a question. The first question is, whoever gets the question right will get the tickets, okay? And what do we have? We have Mystics tickets, and we have what, U2 concert? Okay. Okay. So we got 2 questions.
Raise your hand.
No, okay. Okay. All right. This is a timely question. What year was the Washington Capitals hockey team founded? Yes. 74. You got it.
He's a sports fanatic.
Okay. Well, it paid off tonight. Okay. What year did the Caps, some of you all will remember, they used to be out in Orlando, Largo, wherever. Anybody know the year they moved to Washington, D.C.? Nope.
Can you repeat the question?
What year did the Caps move to Washington, move to D.C.? That would be to the, what was the MCI Center, and is now the Capital One.
82. 82?
2010? 96.
What year?
2010?
No. Nope. Somebody said 96.
Somebody said 96.
That's close. That's real close. 94 is exactly right, Marlon. There you go.
They're a band.
Didn't know that.
So folks, thank you very much for staying. We got one more, we'll be wrapping up real soon. So if you notice coming in on the picture, it was almost serendipity when you looked at the picture of Shannon Thomas when she came in the door, and that picture circulating, because you should see that's a picture she took in front of a restaurant with Councilman Gray and her.
Behind the shopping center.
Behind the Penn Branch Shopping Center, so we put that in there on purpose. And the other thing is, real quickly, the next person that we want to see, we got 2 announcements, but we wanted to make sure, this is my swan song, but we want to make sure you heard from your incoming president, Shannon Thomas. And a presentation.
Okay, I'm gonna make this short and sweet, I promise. Okay, first I want to say that I'm humbly thankful for the individuals that recognize something in me to encourage me and to support me along this journey. Before I go any further, I want to thank Jimmy and Roy for the impeccable job that they did over the 4 years that they ran this administration. Not only them, I want to recognize their whole team. You guys really did a wonderful job. It was inspiring, and it was, it really touched me to see a group of people so passionate about the community. And a lot of times we don't give people their just due, and we don't give them their accolades. So I want to take this time to say thank you from Penn. Also, I'm kind of glad that I came in at the time that I did, and I did it in a very quiet way. I actually sat back and observed the things that I saw going on, and I was able to identify the things that were going wrong within Penn Branch, my little humble slice of pie I love. And I saw a lot of division in some instances. I saw some negativity. I saw some people pointing blame at people that didn't deserve blame, and they weren't taking ownership of how they can contribute to making our community better. And I just want to instill that we should be creating a community of fellowship, growth, and understanding, and make Penn branch the gem that it is meant to be. So hopefully we can all unify together and make this a great community and not make this a burden of a situation. So I'm excited. I can't wait to work with everybody, and I hope I make you proud. Thank you.
Mr. Jimmy Williams, can you come up front? On behalf of the Penn Branch community, we would like to give you a nice perennial for your service and your contribution to our community.
Thank you very much. You know what, you brought this up and I said, oh wow, those are beautiful. Okay, she gets points for that. So, the last thing I want to do is have all the new officers just to come up. We want to make sure we get pictures with Councilman Gray. And the other thing I want to do is if you are a new neighbor that just came and this is your first meeting, please stand up now. If you're a new neighbor and this is your first time, please stand up so we can acknowledge you. We want to make sure that we acknowledge all the neighbors. Sorry, what street? What's your name?
Texas Avenue.
Texas Avenue. That's your husband, Texas Avenue. So what's your last name? So I want to make sure. O'Neill. So we want to make sure we reach out to the O'Neills. This is the last time I'm going to be bossy telling people what to do. This is Shannon's job now. But I'm going to ask ceremonially that the new officers step up, have a seat, we'll take pictures, and then again, I'm not going to adjourn this meeting. The new president is going to adjourn this meeting because as of this time, I'm no longer president. It's been a wonderful experience and quite seriously. But I'd like the new officers to come up and have your seats. Then afterwards, we'll take pictures with Councilman Gray. Are they here? Oh, so, yeah, just have your seats. If there are seats. And there's lots of food in the back, so make sure you take some. So that's it, and Shannon, where are you? This is your show now.
Yeah, a meeting adjourned. Councilmember Gray, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come speak with us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.